Hey, it's Greg Milby, community storyteller for Kentucky's Heartland. That dapper gentleman over there is Rick Games, the COO and president of the E-Town Hardin County Industrial Foundation. Right here, Mayor Jeff Gregory with the city of Elizabethtown. And you guys have had a pretty good week. I mean, we've had a big announcement, and hopefully people have heard about it, that Kruger Packaging is building a facility here in our town, and 400,000 square foot facility.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, big building.
150 jobs.
Yeah, that's the number they projected for their state incentive package, and I think, as we were talking earlier before we started, a lot of automation in this facility. So,
What I want to talk about, though, it's easy. You can find that. News Enterprises ran a story on it. Radio has done stories on it, and the information is out there. But I want to talk about behind the scenes. How does something like this happen? I think that's kind of where we're going. Like Paul Harvey used to do the whole rest of the story thing years ago. That's what I want to kind of cover today is what's the rest of the story of this? Now, when Kruger, do they call you up, or is it kind of like eharmony.com for industry and in towns where they go, oh, you guys are a perfect match, you're now dating, and then all of a sudden that happens? What's the process to get an industry and a company like this to come to town?
well, and from the city's standpoint, and of course Jeff, being the mayor, is on our executive team, and typically the process is that a company will begin to do preliminary research on their own, and they'll usually key in on location because they're looking at location based on their customer base or their intended customer base. And that can be, in today's world, that can be other countries. It's obviously other states, and it's East Coast, West Coast, whatever. So once they narrow that down, they usually will do one of two things. They'll either direct contact local communities, which doesn't happen very often. Typically, they'll do a consulting arrangement with a site consultant, or they'll contact the company, will contact the state directly, which is what Kruger did. They contacted the state directly, and then they brought a consultant on at a later time. But they contact the state and they say, hey, we're looking for A, B, C, and the state looks in the database and picks the communities that meet their needs. I think this project, when it originally started, there were probably at least 2 states, and I think 3 states, and probably 3 or 4 locations in each state. So it's a long process. In this particular case, it was way over a year. They'll do a cut. They'll do an RFI, request for information. They'll do another cut, additional questions, another cut, site visits. It goes on and on and on. And then this particular case, in our case, here, during the COVID, it was extremely difficult, and in some cases there were people who were not able to come and visit that would have normally come because they're in Canada. So, but they did have some U.S. folks here, so it's a pretty involved process, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people understand. They don't just show up.
So to kind of, again, I like this whole simplicity of it all leading into this. So it's like Bachelor and Bachelorette.
I don't know. I don't watch that.
Well, I mean,
Maybe a little.
I mean, I just say, hey Jeff, I knew he watched that show. But it's kind of like that, where you've got multiple states, and I guess as you mentioned, multiple countries that have interest in this facility. So they are kind of courting and trying to impress them to do that. So what was the big seller? What was the big hook for them to base themselves right here in our town of E-Town?
Well, and I'm going to speak, and you jump in any time.
I've got comments ready.
Yeah.
But you go ahead.
All right.
You're the maestro. You're the master at this.
One of the big things, and I told the guy I talked to yesterday that the team we have in place is pretty impressive. And now, granted, we had to do several visits virtually, but we did have we had an in-person visit or 2 with some of their U.S. folks, and I mean it was a good team. I mean the city was there, and they want to. Go back to your analogy of the bachelor, bachelorette. They want to feel loved. Mm-hmm. They want to know, hey, these guys are not just, feeding us a line. They really genuinely, and I think we're able to project that. Jeff does a great job, and Ed Pope has been involved in this before. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking is part of what is attractive to companies that are looking some genuine people that are actually, telling them what they need to know.
So Rick's done this for a long time, 20 plus years now, and he's made the connections and he's done the networking, and he has the relationships with the people on the state level. He has the relationships with the people at P&L Railroad, Tony Rick and all those guys that are so helpful on the things that we do. And so from a city perspective, we look at Rick and say, what do you need us to do? How do you need us to help? Because I feel like our job is to be able to give him the tools to be able to show these people what we can offer in this area, whether it be quality of life. We talk about having an airport there close. We talk about the great job that Dr. Pate's doing at ECTC. Talk about the great job that Baptist Health is doing with Dennis Johnson and John Godfrey and those guys, and on and on and on. And we continue to try to improve the infrastructure in our community in general, so he has those tools to sell to those different companies.
Yeah, quality of life is important.
It's everything.
Not just for the residents that live here, but for
Yes.
Industry that comes in.
Especially for people who are going to bring people here to work and operate the plant. If they're going to come from another city or even another country, quality of life is extremely important.
Now, when we talk about this company and the work that they do, I guess cardboard packaging, the type
Right.
of, and as you mentioned, a lot of robotics and a lot of technology involved in that, I guess. This is not, when you talk about salaries, there's a lot of talk about money and what
Sure.
people make, quality of life, wages and things. We're talking $32.50 an hour is what their goal is to be for an average hourly salary there?
With benefits. So what, and here's the thing about the salary range. I was just someplace, I passed a sign just a few minutes ago, and it was a part-time job somewhere in a shop or something. It was $15 an hour. I mean, that's a job that 10 years ago they were paying minimum wage. Well, these companies in our industrial park have generated and continue to generate higher wages in all fields. So, and that's a double-edged sword. The people have to pay more, but it's about salaries to allow people to live and have a car and raise their kids and buy food. You can't do that on low wages. So they know that, and we're very, very forthcoming. You're not going to come here and pay $10 an hour. You just won't make it. You can't find the people that you need unless you're going to pay, what the rest of these folks out there are paying. So salary's big, and it's not something, you can go a lot of places and they'll say, oh yeah, you can get this cheap labor. But we don't know that we really want people to come here and pay wages. It's just not.
Sure, and to his point, he gets projects sent down to him all the time, or people inquiring about locating in Elizabethtown, and we review those, and they're not always a good fit for us. I mean, we interview them somewhat similar as the way that they interview us, and we want to make sure that it's a good fit all the way around. So that's just one of the considerations that we look at when those come down.
When the ball starts to move a little bit, you want it to pick up speed. Is this announcement and this Kruger's announcement that they're coming here, is that going to help us down the road even add more business? Because, somebody sees this company that has, they have plants all over the world, and they chose Elizabethtown and Hardin County to drop a lot of money in, $114 million. Is that going to help us down the road?
It always makes a difference. I think it's one of those double-edged swords again. The more you create jobs, the more the workforce profile changes, and that can cause some issues. I think that's what's important about, when you can create a facility like this with, 150, 200 jobs, it's a little easier on the existing system to find people. So I'm excited about that. But yes, it gives you, obviously, it's publicity and recognition for the community. Well, those guys did a search in 2 countries, and they chose Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Which I think is great. And as a resident of this county and working in downtown Elizabethtown, thank you guys for the work that you do to continue to improve our quality of life, whether it's recreational or food and parks, but industry is just as important as any of those. And thank you guys for all the work you do to make that happen.
Well, it drives
Everything.
It's what drives that. You know, these people that you're recruiting to come to town obviously pay salaries and wages and taxes, but they want to see those things that make that good quality of life, parks and utilities and good streets and all the things that everybody wants to have. So
Good stuff.
it's extremely important.
Anything else you want to add as we close it out?
I just want to add that we're really appreciative of the great team that we have at the city of Elizabethtown. You know, he spoke about our city administrator, Ed Pope, and what his knowledge and his experience is priceless. Our engineers were involved as far as our stormwater engineer with Rita Davis, our gas superintendent with Matthew Hobbs, Don Hill, our public works superintendent, and even more. And they all just jump in, whatever we need done, whatever Rick needs done, they're always there and glad to do it. And I know he's got a whole list of people too.
I just wanted to say, because it is important to understand, you start with the Industrial Foundation Board of Directors and Greg Pauley, who is our chairman, and all the work that we put in over the year that we've been doing this. The Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development, Governor Beshear and Team Kentucky and Secretary Hayes. And as the mayor said, all the city department heads, all the city utilities, the Hardin County Water District, Brother Bell and his group, Kentucky Utilities played a major role. I think one of the keys here was the Paducah and Louisville Railroad, because these guys are going to heavily utilize the rail to bring in raw material, and it was very, very important. And P&L Railroad and President Tony Rex stepped up and played a big role in it. But the college, Dr. Pate, workforce training is always very important. Jim Iacocca at KRDA was involved with explaining and helping them understand the military workforce and folks that separate from service. So Jim did a great job. And Heartland Communications has helped us through the process. And it's just, that's the team, and that's what it takes. You got to have I told the guy was calling me yesterday. I said, I think what makes us unique here is good things happen, and nobody cares who gets the credit. It's a team effort. We make it happen and move on. Let's get another one.
Well, that's a lot more work than just getting an application via email to come be a part of your community.
No, it's a lot of work.
And Greg, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our city council as well. I don't want to forget them, because they came up big and put some funds into this out of the city's budget. I guess it was last year, or will go into this year, and they've always been very supportive and helpful. Both councils that I've served with, and it's a great partnership all the way around.
Helped with infrastructure improvements and things that need to be done, and it's a big deal. They've done a great job.
There you go. Well, there you go. Kruger Packaging coming really, really soon here to Elizabethtown. And it's just one of the examples of your community is our community, and we all live here together. And it takes a bunch of people to make things happen, and we appreciate all the work you do. He's Rick Games with the E-Town Hardin County Industrial Foundation. This is Mayor Jeff Gregory. I'm getting used to saying that.
I like it.
Yeah. Are you right? Well, I'm not even going to ask you again. We're not going to get into that yet. I'm Greg Milby, community storyteller, and this is Kentucky's Heartland.